national inventory is up. Now, what are these numbers doing here? Somebody must have snuck them in there. All right. National headlines. Distressed sales accounted for 14%, down from 24% in September. 39% of September closings had a DOM of 30 days or less. It's 20% in our market. Think about that from a national standpoint. That's pretty high. So we've got a little bit of ways to go on that. Local headlines, Wake building permits are up 17%, up 30% year to date. That's great. Foreclosure filings down 45% in the state. And those are huge decreases in terms of where we were last year in terms of that. What are these numbers doing here again? All right, local headlines. Inventory down 10%. Pendings up 23%. Closed sales up 26%. So that's fantastic stuff. 93 closed sales at $1 million plus during the past 12 months. So as I look out in the audience and I see many people that I got into the business with back in 1983, and a lot of them longer than that, $1 million house was a huge whopping house back then. And now look at that. We had 93 closed sales during the past 12 months. That's amazing. The high water mark, $2.8 million in Wakefield, was one of 7 houses to close at $2 million or higher. We're not DC, we're not Atlanta. You could drive through all those major metropolises and see subdivisions of $1 million houses. But think of where we've come in 25 years, where 25 years ago there probably wasn't $1 million house, maybe 1 or 2. But now we've sold that many. That's pretty impressive. All right, inventory is down what percent? Little question. All right, so this is one of the things, this is one of those psycho mind games the presenter's trying to play with you. I put those number slides up there to see if you paid attention to them, and then I'm going to ask you a question because what was the answer to the question? 5, 15, or 10? Very good. All right. Pendings are up what percent?
23.
Look at that. Very good. And then closings are up what percent? Aha. So part of the feedback that I got in some of my prior presentations was that everybody was so awed by the technology that they didn't learn anything. You learned 3 things today, okay? And don't call me back and say I didn't learn anything, all right? All right, so showings, yeah, I mean, the good thing about going back to 2007 to 2013 is you can see where we were. Obviously, all these graphs that Jay put up, and they've all shown you where we were and where we are now. Even though we've had a great year so far, look at where we were in 2007, 14,000 showings this quarter versus 22,000 back in 2007, so the market has significantly contracted. Here's our monthly showings. Once again, we're repeating the seasonality in our market. One of the questions I was going to put up was a true-false. Do showings peak in March? True or false? True. And that's tough, especially for those of us from the north that have made it home for a long time or just moved down here. You're wearing shorts in March. You don't think that the market has peaked in March. You don't think that at all. You think it's probably in the middle of the year. But in terms of showings, that's exactly what happened. All right, so here's our inventory. You've seen this presented 3 different ways. There's the total listings, and then there's the new home listings. I think the thing that amazes me about the new home listings, if you go all the way back to 2007, we were almost at 5,000 new home listings, and now we're down to 1,600. So if you want to talk about an effect on the economy, I don't care what your business is, if you sold 5,000 things at a time period and now you're only doing 1,700, it's going to have a significant economic impact. All right, houses listed during the quarter. Well, we need help. We're getting help. It's interesting. If you remember my presentations over the years, I think it was back in 2006, my first slide was who's stealing our inventory. And we went through years of adding inventory, and now we're starting to get back to, or decreasing inventory, now we're starting to get back to adding it. But once again, you go back to 2007 where we put about 12,000 houses on the market. And even though the third quarter of this year was great, it was still only 8,400. So that's really tiny. Who's next? Oops. Did that. Okay. Okay, quarterly pending, once again, great news. If you look at how bad, does anybody remember 2010? Okay, well, now you should have. Okay, as your therapist in chief, you've got to block that out. Okay, just let it go. It was an anomaly, or as statistics people call it, an outlier. And we hope it's an outlier and it never comes back. But look at how much we've bounced back from that. The market's almost pretty much doubled since 2010. And look at how close we are to 2007. I mean, 7,041 versus 6,720. That was really the best third quarter we ever had for pending sales, so we're pretty close to that. And then closed sales by period. The gold color is year to date. The blue is quarterly, once again, 7,000 here, 55, 44, 38. So if I just put these three up here, y'all have a big smile on your face and think, man, the market's doing great, everything's fantastic. But we have to have a little bit of a reality check and go back to where we were in 2007. Once again, not too far off, 7,500 versus 7,020. And then look at the year-to-date, 19,000, which is the second best in that period. So there's a lot of good headlines in terms of closings that you are seeing. And then months of housing supply. Why is there lag? There we go. Wake up. We peaked 2010, we had an 11 month, so those of you who heard me speak, 10 months or higher is an oversupply of housing, 3 months or less is an undersupply of housing. So look at how we've really just rocketed down, 11, 7, 5, and 3. When your overall market has an 3-month supply of housing, that's pretty much an undersupply. And so that's going to be some issues that we have to deal with that. Then we get to days on the market, 2011. 126, all the way down to 70. If you think in January of 2011, we started the due diligence contract, so that added about 30 days to the DOM statistics. So you could say it was probably 90 days. You could say this is probably 40 days. So that's probably as good as we're going to get. 69 was the low water mark back in 2007. So notice a lot of these slides that I put up were really close to what we did in 2007. And when we did these presentations in 2010 and 11, everybody said, how long is it going to be before we get back? And we all said, no, man, it's going to be a long, long, long time. That's pretty impressive in a lot of these metrics to get back to where we were at the peak. All right, percent of closed sales with financial concessions. So back when things were really good, 2007, 2008, it was about a third of the market. And then things got really bad, and what did sellers and builders have to do? Up the ante, 55, 54, and 52. So my question to you, back to your devices, is why? These are the three things I thought up. You may be able to figure better ones out. A, tough to kick the habit. B, they still do not think the market is strong. And C, 50% of the market needs to. And when you look at a market that's got a 3-month supply, and you look at a very low new home inventory, and you're going, why in the heck are builders still throwing in $2,500 or $5,000 in closing costs? It makes no sense to me. It's almost like they don't, and oh, by the way, it's going to take me 6 months to build the house. So why would you advise them to pay closing costs? It's just one of those things that I can't figure out, and that's kind of what leads me to think maybe it's A. If they've been doing it for the last 4 years, if they just can't figure out to stop doing it. So, but I do think that C also is part of that. And you think that there is, ooh, you don't think it's wrong. So A, you don't think the sellers are habitual. Interesting. All right, next one, percent of closings, all cash financing. So this is the bank of mom and dad. This was really a relatively new phenomenon, 2008 and 2007. We didn't see a lot of this stuff. But now when the market turns south, 2009, 2010, 18%. And we've held pretty close to that 18% mark. I'm not sure what percentage of our all-cash buyers are investors in our market. I think it's the majority of activity in other markets, but I don't think so as much here. Average closing prices. The good thing about this graph is that, look, do you see any of this? Jay talked about the FHFA website, or he put that slide up there. If you want to kick, just go up there and look at the house price index, and then pick Miami-Dade as a county. And you'll see in like 2006, it was like this up there, and then it went like all the way down to there, and then it went that way. So try pricing a house in those kind of markets. It's almost impossible. So we're really happy that we have this nice stability in our market in terms of house pricing. All right, so pricing facts. If you get the house listed correctly, which everybody in this room does, I hate to tell you this, there are some people out here that say, seller, what do you want to list the house for? Nobody in this room, but there are sellers out there that do that. 60 days if you got the house price right, 98% of list price. So that means you're not coming off list price that much. But if you don't get that right, sold in an average of 150 days and 91%. So you have, it's up to you. 90 days, do you want to extend your relationship with your seller by 3 more months? I could ask that question. Matter of fact, let's do a BlackBerry poll here. So raise your hand if you'd like to extend your relationship by 90 days. Nobody did, okay. I had to throw Tom another bone. I got on pretty hard yesterday. All right, so what are we doing with national house prices? This is a nice red state, blue state. This is not a political graph down on the bottom. So here's where we were nationally, and then things are great, and that's the Mendoza line there, and we were down there. So the good thing that you want to know is that house prices are increasing. It is absolutely essential for the economy that banks, I mean, we talked about debt in terms of how much debt there is and how much it is tied to residential real estate. You have to have an economy with increasing house prices, or else we got problems, and we live through these problems. For this, here is, it's really good to be a dark blue state, not to be a dookie or anything like that. Here's the heels up here. Everybody else is kind of in the middle. So the baby blue and the dark blue are the high appreciation, so back to California and Washington, Oregon, and Georgia and Florida and Michigan, and you're going, how could house prices increase in Michigan? Well, when they go to 0, there's no place to go but up, right? I guess what I've put on my blog and read some stuff, you got some people thinking about, oh, here we go in the bubble again. And it is a little bit worrisome when you see that is Nevada, and house prices are starting to go up in Nevada, and that's Arizona, and house prices are starting to shoot up in Arizona, and that's Florida, and that house prices are starting to shoot up in Florida. Are we going to get back to that? And the one economic rule that you always have to remember is that there has to be a linkage between house prices and income. We put the slide up there about how income's like this, and if you see house prices going like that, what's that a recipe for? Bubble. So pay attention to that. All right, so in our market, this is for Wake County, and what I do to develop this graph is I look at resales within the past 13 months, and then I put them in baskets in terms of when you bought the house. So if you saw this slide 2 years ago, we were all in negative. So if you bought your house in 2012, which was last year, on average you're up 3%. If you bought it in 2011, on average you're about 2.26. Here's the bad news, and we say so crystal ball, where is my inventory coming from? A significant part of our historical inventory has been what? People that want to do what? Move up, so which means they bought something and they need to move up. Well, guess what? Here's your inventory right here, 2005 to 2009. That's a huge issue. Our house prices are not going up 5 to 10%. Jay did not, he was smart, he didn't say how much he thought inventory was going to go up. If you were to ask me how much inventory is going to go up, John, I'd say probably about 1 to 2% next year. Because of this, our house prices aren't increasing fast enough to release more of these sellers into the market. So that's where our inventory issues are, and the fact that new construction is building as fast as they can. All right, so back to the phones we go. I'm going to ask you forward-thinking questions. House prices in the next 12 months, 1 to 3% higher, 3 to 5% higher, or flat? Ooh. 1 to 3% higher, so that's pretty good. Well, it's a race. Well, you doubled it. Nobody thinks flat, so that's good. Practitioners are typically optimistic by nature. All right, total sales in 2014. Come on. Click over. There we go. 20 sales in 2014. 1 to 3% higher, 3 to 5% higher, or flat. Got an aggressive crowd here. And that's a lot. I mean, most of you think house prices are going up 3 to 5%. So I would ask you, why did you pick the higher instead of the lower? Well, I've given you one answer, inventory, and I've given you another one, months of supply, and I've given you another one, days on the market. So all those combined together should produce what? House price increases. All right, so what do your peers think? And has anybody up here either participated in the Realtors Confidence Index or actually read the Realtors Confidence Index? Does anybody know that the Realtors Confidence Index even exists? Okay. Do you know who in this room who knows what NAR stands for? Don't say National Rifle Association. Who in here pays dues to NAR? Okay, so what you have on here is the result of your dues. It costs money to take this survey. And I think it's pretty interesting because, and once again, practitioners are probably a little bit more optimistic than anybody else, which is good. But you can see where this goes all the way back to, how does this show up on your device, by the way?
Small.
Tiny, small. Okay. I'm learning. All right, so this goes all the way back to 2008. All right, so they were fairly, and look at this, I mean, through the downturn, here was their only downturn, and that's what is that? Well, there's a downturn. So anyway, just, the one thing, you don't want to get hung up on the numbers. You want to just look at the pattern. So the pattern's up, and that's good. So that's what you want. So our market challenges that we've got going forward, we've had 23 consecutive months of inventory under 10,000. That's a long time. First time since the 1105 through the January of 06 is there any increase on the horizon. So we got move up, move up. We got move up, move up market. Any help there? Yes or no? No. Family formation market. We don't want to, but we need it. We don't really need it. So it's people having kids and then people splitting up. That's part of the resale market. They need a house. New construction market. Any help coming there? They're pretty much doing as best that they can. Local economy was flat. The job growth between August 12 and August 13, I think we added about 100 jobs or something like that. So that's not, I mean, we've done great in terms of the employed workforce in the Raleigh-Cary MSA and the Durham-Chapel Hill MSA. But in terms of what we've done in the past year, have we already used up our job growth? And that's going to be something to pay attention to because I think what we saw in the first quarter of this year was the result of all that pent-up demand created by that job growth that we saw. All right, so you have one final participatory thing to do. And that is grade next year between 1 and 100. Come on, we're at 69. Now, you can't be optimistic about the market and prices. And all we get in a C, 79. Come on, we got to get 80. Somebody vote 95. Nobody's voting 95? 78. Now, this is interesting because I did this at the RE/MAX retreat. So those are top producers. They said 78%. I did this twice yesterday at Trends. They all said 78%. And y'all are 79%. It's amazing how you're mirroring what your peers are thinking. I think that's pretty cool. So anyway, now we get to know this instead of raising your hand in a BlackBerry fashion. So that was my last shot at you. We're done for the year. Now what is going to happen is as I stop this, you are going to get a prompt on your device to rate the presentation. Tessa won't see it, so that's good. But the key thing is that you get to keep the slides. So previously we said, okay, the slides are on the website, or Betsy will email them for you. Now if you click save, the slides are on your device. So you don't have, so we're trying to make you more efficient. This is one way to do that. So that is what I've got for you. Do you have any questions for me? Where do I click save? It should come up save. Do you want to save this presentation? Okay. Oh, is it taking that long to rate it? Damn. Hey, just swipe it to the right. Swipe to the right. Swipe it to the right. Let me save you on that one. Just go right to the right. Go. do that one. No questions. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we'll for the BlackBerry people, we'll put them on the slide. Yes. Question in the back. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different ways. The question was, there's a discrepancy in months of supply. Jay said 5.2 or 5.3, and I said 3. I look at supply in terms of a sales pace using 90 days. He looks at supply in terms of a rolling 12-month average. There's no right or wrong way to do it. I think when you do the 12-month rolling average, you can kind of get the seasonality. But the reason I do it quarter by quarter is so I can compare the third quarter of this year versus the third quarter of last year versus the third quarter of the year before. So just kind of keep the apples to apples comparison. And once again, I guess the other thing that I get a lot of feedback on is, okay, the market's great here, but I'm sitting with 5 houses, I'm sitting with 5 listings priced at $800,000 and above. And it is literally like being on Mars. There cannot be 2 distinctly more different market segments that you have right now. If you start at $800,000 and above, the months of supply goes up to like a year versus 3 months regularly. So that market's about 4 times bad. If you've got a 7-figure listing, even though I put that slide up there about how many of them that sold, which is a lot of them, there's tons of them on the market. And what I saw in new construction, Jim, people have started to get back in and start to build 800,000 plus specs. I'm going, okay, that's pretty brave to do, because I think you've got some major inventory issues in terms of oversupply with those higher price points. Brett?
Stacey, I see that showings are way down, but I also see that inventory is way down. Is there a weighted stat that shows you weighted, like there was 20,000 homes on the market, but 23,000 showings, and now there's how many with how many showings? To give a weighted,
What I do, I call the show list ratio. So I take the number of listings and I take the number of showings and I divide it by the number of listings. And that has gone up in every market that I analyzed over the past year. But you're right, when you see total number of showings go down or move in a different direction, you have to pay attention to the fact that inventory is down.
Yeah.
Ben?
Stacey, I'd be curious to hear if you can comment on what you guys are facing on the appraisal side.
It's all seashells and balloons, I'm telling you, we got it made. I'm truly blessed to be in this market. I love underwriters. I love getting a house under contract and appraising it. It couldn't be better. How's that? Okay, now the real. So my therapist said, whenever you get stressed, you answer in a positive. So I did that. And so if I start shaking and trembling up here, it's because Van got me off my game. And he mentioned mortgage underwriters, which, okay, sorry. Hey, they probably feel the same way that I do about it, but it's a huge challenge. Look, when you go back from where we were, in terms of a disaster, in terms of what real estate did to this economy, it's only a natural reaction to say, okay, we're going to tighten the screws. And oh, by the way, I don't know if anybody read that QRM, did anybody remember what qualified residential mortgage was? They put up 20% and they shot it down. And guess what came back? 30%. Okay, that'll make things really good. So 20% will be a disaster for the economy, the residential market. What's 30% going to be? An unmitigated disaster. I don't know who in their right mind. Unfortunately, 30% down payment. Do you think that would work? What do you think? What do you think my graphs would be next year if that happened? Okay, they'd all be like dropping like a rock. So it really is. It's an issue. So how do appraisers interact with mortgage underwriters? Well, they're doing their job. We're doing our job. It's a huge challenge. I've been doing this for 25 years. This spring was about as miserable as I've ever been with mortgage underwriters. And I'm not the only one. And I'm sure that the originators are feeling the same way. It's just hard. I hope that we can get through it, and I think we have. But that's really, I think we've gotten through the first price increase issue, because I would suspect that most of you are coming in under contracts from an appraisal standpoint have it in the first and second quarter. And I would guess that in the third quarter you saw that temper a little bit. Yes? Do you agree? So that's really the back office stuff that we have to deal with with originators is our challenge, but the coming in short of contract price is your challenge. And I think that's gotten a lot better because the house prices are higher. We've got higher quality comps in the second and third quarter to go from there.
Financing concessions, I think you may have made a comment on this, but how significant a portion does the seller pay to that? Is that much of it?
In terms of a percentage,
Yeah.
what are they paying? It's about 2% on average. And like I said, it's just one of those things. I can see it when you have an overpriced house or you're in a market that's got an oversupply, but these new home builders that have, it's going to take me 6 months to 9 months to deliver your house and they're still paying 20, I don't get that at all.
Well, in Fayetteville, it's given. The seller's paying.
Yeah. Oh, no, this, okay. Well, in our market, it's the seller it's usually a dollar amount that they're paying. So it's 1,000 or 2,000 or 2,500. Somebody. We don't know.
Does telling you make a difference?
Yeah, it absolutely does. But see, when we get the appraisal order, it's just like, okay, here's the contract. We don't know that there's, I mean, if the house is under contract above list price, we can probably, and it's been on the market for less than a week, we can probably guess that. But, no. But it's one of those things that in our write-up of the report, in our analysis of the contract, saying the accepted contract was one of 3 offers or 4 offers or 5 offers or something like that.
I think one of the numbers was the average 70 days on market. Was that right?
Mhm.
Just for the triangle, or does that include like?
4 main counties: Wake, Durham, Orange, and Johnston.
How do we let you know that was a multiple offer situation? Because it seems like it's now.
What I've seen is it's in agent remarks down at the bottom. Don't put it in financial concessions, right, Rachel? No.
I was saying, I'm an appraiser. I had a realtor leave out copies of the other offers on the kitchen table with a note to say, we got three offers and here they are.
Okay. Anybody else? Hearing none. Thank you. As Mark is going to go up the food chain here, and I'm going off the food chain. When leadership looks at an organization and tries to engage them, that what we did yesterday, TMLS Refresh, and today are huge for us because we're always and will continue to always be trying to figure out how do we engage our members in terms of what do they want from us, what can we do for them. And if nobody showed up yesterday, which was not the case, and if nobody showed up today, which was not the case, then we go, how can we get, where's the disconnect? So thank you so very much for showing up. It means a lot to leadership that puts all this stuff together. It means a lot to staff. Betsy, fantastic as always in putting all this stuff together. And so I'll stick around if you have some questions afterwards, but thanks and go out and have a great day.